I got love him the way that I love you. Just drop the mic there. Hey, how's everybody doing today? We're a little earlier than normal, but that's probably for the best as the Super Bowl is tonight, and I know a lot of people are, even if you don't like watching sports, are probably watching that tonight, watching those commercials, hanging out with some friends, and eating a lot of good food. I know that's what I'm going to do, so we'll get things started here, and we'll get you out of here and ready so that you can go over to your friend's house and have some of that great Super Bowl snack food. Just want to go ahead and introduce myself. Welcome into 52/1993. We are a podcast / stream where we talk about movies from the year 1993. I'll tell you a little bit more about that here in a second. Again, just want to welcome you all in. Thank you so much. If you are here, if you're new here, go ahead and hit that follow button. We'd love to hear from you, and please interact in the chat. We love to hear from you if you are here as well. You may not have seen the movie that we're going to talk about, but that is okay. You can always listen to this later. I post these on my Twitch channel. I post these on YouTube, so there are more than enough ways to be viewing this or seeing this or hearing this, so we welcome everybody in, and drop that follow so that you can participate the next time that we do this, which we do every Sunday, usually at 5 p.m. Eastern this week, doing it a little bit early, like I said. So first and foremost, again, my name is Cody Waits, also known as Quatesy, and I have started a podcast just called 52/1993. It's a film discussion about the year 1993. We hope to do this where I will watch 52 movies from the year 1993 and talk about one each week. We do these in sequential order, as in the day that they came out. They're not always going to line up. Obviously, that was 30 years ago, so those dates don't always line up with us. But we try and keep it going that way. And we're choosing movies that are important from this year. Some of them were, I got the 20 biggest box office sellers of that year. I put them on this list. I got all the Best Picture nominations from the Academy Awards on here. And then I also picked some significant movies that I thought were culturally relevant, and including today's choice, which I think is a very culturally relevant movie. And I'll talk about that here in a second. Doesn't matter if any of these movies are good or bad either. I really don't care. I just want to watch some movies, especially from 30 years ago. Talk about them, see what we were doing back then, and why it was culturally relevant to the time. Some of these movies. This is a year that is often known as like the family movie year. There are a lot of family movies that have come out. This one that we're talking about is not a family movie, but maybe you would like to sit down and watch it with your family. So another thing I like to do is bring on a guest to talk about these movies, and then get their opinions on it. Sometimes ask them some questions about movies and their interests in them, and get their thoughts. So I've had a lot of recurring guests. If you ever think that you would be interested in being on the show, please let me know. You can always reach out to me on my social media platforms. That is at CDWaits. So you can find me on Twitter, Facebook. No, don't do Facebook. Twitter or Instagram. I'm also on Letterboxd. That's where I keep a track of all these movies that we'll be talking about and keep that list there. So for finally, I'm going to go ahead and bring my guest in, and this always takes a minute to work, so just bear with me as I transition to the next screen. And let me unmute him so he can actually talk. And I think he has to unmute himself, but I think he did it. So
yeah, hopefully it worked. First of all, I want to say I'm really digging the the video playing in the background, that old school VHS.
Oh yeah, I didn't have this movie on VHS, so I went with the next best thing from the director that we're going to talk about. So I've got The Faculty playing in the background.
Oh.
Pretty solid movie. We can talk about that later. But uh, welcome in my friend Spencer, old BSG over here, Big Spencer Griffin.
That's not what it is, but I guess it is now.
Welcome in, man. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're here to talk about this movie. You were excited to talk about this one, I think, and I'm excited for you to talk about this with me. Like because when I've watched it twice this week, and after my first viewing, I was like, I don't know why he's so excited to talk about this, but after my second viewing, I got a little bit more excited. So I will. What anything to go before I get into the movie of the week?
Yeah, I guess I'll just start by saying like I had never heard of this movie or obviously not seen it. You mentioned that you watched it twice. I think the rewatchability of this movie is very high. Like you could sit down and watch it multiple times and you'd be fine. It's got some great stuff in it, and then also upon well, obviously I really enjoyed it because I was excited to talk about it, and we'll get into how much I enjoyed it. But I, upon doing research on the movie too, is just there's so much good stuff that mostly I found on IMDb. It's just it's like to me this movie was an instant cult classic.
Yeah, you're 100% correct on that. I mean, it does get better on second view. Even the and we'll talk about it, but yeah, a lot of the stuff that I got from Wikipedia, IMDb, all that stuff we'll talk about. I don't want to ruin anything, but I'll talk about why I do feel like it is rewatchable, and not always for like good reasons too. So let's go ahead and introduce the movie of the week. This week's movie is called El Mariachi, and it was released on February 26th, 1993. It was directed by Robert Rodriguez. It was written by Robert Rodriguez, and pretty much done everything by Robert Rodriguez. I think he edited it. He was the director of cinematography. He did it all for this one. It stars Carlos Gallardo as El Mariachi, Consuelo Gomez as Domino, Peter Marquardt as Moco or Maurizio, Reynol Martinez as Azul. So that's our cast there. And synopsis, my favorite part of every one of these, is as follows. Get these from Google. So let me clear this out here. So El Mariachi is a traveling guitar player with the modest desire to play music for a living. Looking for a job, he stops at a bar in a tiny town where his simple, peaceful lifestyle is interrupted. Local hitmen, expecting enemy assassin Azul to invade their town, believe that the visiting musician is the professional killer that they are looking for. Unwittingly embroiled in vicious mob warfare, El Mariachi must shoot his way out of town if he is to survive. Pretty solid. That one's not as bad as some of them have been in the past. And here's where I'm going to get into some really, really fun details about this. The budget for this movie is $7,225. And the box office for this made $2 million. It's got a Rotten Tomatoes score of 91%, second highest, only to Groundhog Day this year so far. IMDb is a little bit lower, and it's a 6.8 out of 10. It's kind of a big drop off from some of the other comparisons that we've had. Even like Homeward Bound, I think, had a different set. But that's IMDb users, a lot more critical, I'd say. A lot of reply guys in IMDb. And this movie actually has a pretty good legacy that comes behind it. Spawns two sequels, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. There's a TV show, I believe, on the Access Network or AXS. I think it's Access. And in 2011, this film was put into the Library of Congress. and preserved in the National Film Registry for being a culturally important film. It also won the Independent Spirit Award for Best First Feature, beating out another movie that we're going to be talking about later this year, Menace to Society, which I'm also excited to see. I've not seen that movie either. And to give a couple reviews, just to start off, I always go with my guy Roger, the Eve man. He says El Mariachi, an enormously entertaining movie, stands in danger of being upstaged by its budget, which was $7,000. Yes, $7,000, or about what it costs to cater lunch for a day on a Schwarzenegger picture. Guy loves to talk about Schwarzenegger, and Schwarzenegger's a very important feature here. But entertained. He gave it 3 out of 4 stars. Roger Ebert liked this movie a lot, and so did Siskel. I did watch that, and he gave it, I think, 3.5 stars out of 4, so he liked it even more than Roger Ebert. But basically was saying the same thing, like just a very entertaining movie, a good first start for a fresh new filmmaker. Especially a lot of the positive reviews I saw were talking about the movement of the camera and how well he moves with the action and things. I didn't see a lot of negative reviews about this, but I kind of get this one that I pulled here from Joe Baltake, terrible name, from the Sacramento Bee.
No.
But the simple fact is, it's not very good, even if it was reportedly made for nearly $7,000 on a record 2-week schedule. So, don't love that, but whatever. All right, I'm done with my initial talking about this. Spencer, what do you think?
So I don't know, you might think I'm crazy, but this movie to me is the best one we've seen so far. It jumps to the top of the list. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was just fantastic. It made me laugh. I don't know, it kept me really focused into I wanted to see what was going to happen next. It featured a lot more comedy than I was expecting. Of course, it was a little bit of a slow burn to start. So, because I didn't know what to expect. It opens, you've got that classic, Mexican haze in the film. And then it starts off a little, I guess, because I went into it blind, it was a little bit slow, a little bit weird. And then it started getting funny and picking up, and stuff started happening, and I was like, all right, this is my kind of movie.
Yeah, I wish I were as excited about it as you are. Like, obviously, I still think Groundhog Day is the best, but Dead Alive was the one that really got me. And Dead Alive is kind of comparable to this. Obviously, not in necessarily tone at all times, but there are some very comedic moments in this, and it's not a scary movie or anything. This is pretty much the first action movie I think we've done this year, and there are plenty more to go after this. But I compared Dead Alive to this as well, but I keep thinking, this is annoying because I bring up, The Good Place all the time. I bring up,
Oh,
but
there
I'm
it
gonna,
is.
I did that one just for you. But no, I compared this to Evil Dead. This is a very Sam Raimi, low budget. What cool shit can I do with the camera? And I said the same thing about Peter Jackson in Dead Alive. I say the same thing about Robert Rodriguez in this movie. That is what really kept me into this movie, was his work. Like, seriously, every piece of action there, I was really into. There were the moments that I'm sure we'll talk about with some of the action sequences, but it is very impressive. I mean, and yes, of course, I'm going to talk about the $7,000 budget. That's insane. Like, basically, if smartphones were invented back then, he wouldn't have spent all that money. The $1,000 would have been to him buying like the newest iPhone, and could have shot this movie. But it's super impressive that all that he was able to do, and I think he got really good performances out of, especially the two leads. Honestly,
And it was shot on film, not digital.
mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of digital in 1993.
I didn't know that, so
That's okay. That's okay.
Egg on my face.
This also reminds me, and this is where I'm gonna nerd out a little bit, but only like really nerd, like tiny nerd out. So if anybody is listening to this and is actual nerd, they'll be like, "This guy doesn't know what he's talking about." Blah, 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 blah. Whatever, shut up. It reminds me of this anime I saw, and I did not watch all of it, but this anime called Trigun, and the whole concept of Trigun is that there's this cool main character that people keep mistakenly thinking is this other character, this other like killer. And he keeps getting in all these fights where he doesn't fight at all, and the people chasing him end up killing themselves, which does happen in this film. So, you have anything else to add before I kind of go through some of the and
Let
another
me.
before I but I'll cut you off. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
You speak Spanish, right? And so
Yeah,
that was another thing that I think probably added to your interest in this movie or like in this movie if I'm
and that was there was an initial first impression. We'll talk about it a little bit later. That was kind of my only gripe with the movie. It starts off in a very slow diction when specifically Mexican Spanish doesn't doesn't follow that cadence. It's very fast, and then so it opens and Moko is talking, and it caught me off guard because I'm like, this guy does not know how to speak Spanish. Like it comes across as like a high school student learning Spanish, and it was very weird. And so I was like, what is it? Is this like a student film? Like what's going on? But then come to find out he didn't speak Spanish,
yeah.
and that was kind of my only problem with the film. But the rest of it ended up being pretty good. It does make it easy to understand for like beginner Spanish speakers. So like, not that it would be appropriate in a classroom setting, but if a high school teacher or a college teacher wanted to show this to their students, so they could try to I don't know, just kind of learn more and kind of pick up on words and cadence, and it's easy to understand. This is pretty simple Spanish, so I'll give it that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't speak a lick of Spanish honestly, like very elementary, very but yeah, it did feel a little stilted in their communication. Like you said, if I'm a non Spanish speaking person, I'm a little bit slower to talk than somebody who is very fluent. And it felt like the Spanish, the performers that were speaking Spanish, know Spanish, kind of kept that up too. So it wasn't like completely out of touch as you would see in like a Guillermo del Toro Spanish film or um,
Yeah, and I wonder if that was intentional because of the audience that they were playing to. I
mm-hmm.
wonder if he told them to kind of dial that speed back just so you didn't lose everybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see any of that in the research, but I mean, Robert Rodriguez, him and his Carlos Gallardo and all these guys were all like Austin, Texas people. Especially Moko, the guy that played, he's American, fully like that dude's white.
Yeah,
Uh, that dude is white, and the only white guy in this movie, and it shows.
it does.
It's so yeah, that's interesting. I'm really glad that you brought that up. Yeah, as a non Spanish speaker, I was like, whatever. This is this is fine. But now that I've thought about it, after you said that, I'm like, yeah, it is a little bit slower for me.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
gonna say if you were to like go watch like a telenovela or something, you would hear just it's almost like you would put this movie on two times speed to to
yeah,
get that.
that's really interesting. Hmm. You got me. You got me on that one.
Hey, that's why I was super. That's another reason I was super excited to talk about it was because it's kind of right up my alley in the language space.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's dive into the movie a little bit. I don't have obviously like Groundhog Day. I had like lines and everything. This is an action movie, so there's like 5 set pieces in this entire thing. So there are like yeah 5 scenes total. If you really think about it, and they shot all this in 2 weeks. It's really impressive. But the opening scene where we meet Azul and he is in a jail and I am so confused about this jail.
Yeah, what was that? Like
But I think that's a
he had
real
an office.
jail.
It is, yeah, and in fact, that was a real, I don't know what you want to call her, jailer that took the bribe at the beginning too.
Real jailer, real warden, and um, he did that one. It's cheaper. Put him in the movie. They already had the costumes and everything, so he didn't have to pay for that
it's
either.
it's genius.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I was a little confused about this, but it was interesting. Azul was doing whatever he was doing. You don't find out too much about any of these characters, honestly, and I mean that's good. Sometimes exposition and explaining is a little bit what drags movies down, and this one doesn't do any of that or hold your hand or anything. But he has access to a phone in this jail, and uh, I still like he gets a phone call from Moko, and Moko's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you your money." And in reality, he's like, "And I'll send somebody out in a few days." And turns out that Moko's sending some guys to take him out while he's in jail. He sends 3 guys, and they pay the jailer as well, or bribe the jailer, not as well, but first, so that they'll let him in. But it appears that Asul's been waiting for this the entire time. All the guys that are in the locked up in the jail with him are ready. They've got guns in there
Yeah,
in like a
like
styrofoam ice chest.
like it was like a Mac 10. I don't know. They had some nice guns in there.
Yeah. And so these 3 guys just get obliterated. And then Asul pays his way out of jail. Um, which I think he could have. The locks on the doors weren't even locked.
No, and Azul is just in general super badass to me, but he delivers like, and I wish I remembered what it was. I didn't write this one down, but it was like a badass line of like, because he's on the phone with Moko and he's like, this is what it's gonna sound like whenever I come visit you, and he held the phone up, and
Oh
then shot
yeah,
them
that
all.
is awesome. I love that part.
That was sick.
um, is it in this scene that he talks about the him wearing? No, I think it's later. He talks about him
Oh
wearing
yeah, yeah,
the
I
white
wrote that
suit
one.
with the.
Yeah, I wrote that one down for
That
sure.
one's pretty great.
There's some really good one-liners in this film.
Yeah, and then so Azul gets out of jail, and then another. I guess his boys come and pick him up and give him his guitar case filled with guns, and that's kind of what sets this, in motion. I love that opening scene, and then the next thing that we see is our hero of the movie, El Mariachi, walking down the road with his guitar case, which is filled with a guitar, and just kind of doing this narration over him walking down this highway. I think a tortoise passes him, and that wasn't meant to be in the movie, and they
Oh,
just
was
were
it not?
no, they were just like, hey, this tortoise is crossing the road. Let's say something. Let's give a line about this tortoise,
It
and
ended up
and
coming full circle.
yeah. So yeah, that was not originally in the movie or in the
Wow, I
script.
didn't.
So
They did give the tortoise an acting credit. Tito La Tortuga
oh, okay,
was in the credits. So
Tito
yeah,
the tortoise. I love it. I love Tito. He was awesome.
he
Um,
was. He did great.
and we get to the mariachi, and he ends up, making his way to this town, um, where they give out free coconuts.
Yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen
That
either.
wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, they just realized he forgot to pay him, and they're like, "Oh, let's throw in that it was free."
But I'm glad that they did, because when he got the coconut and like started walking off with it, I was like, that guy didn't pay for that. And then the next line is like, free coconuts. This town sounds great. And I was like, good job, Robert Rodriguez. Way to go.
Dude, he did some smart stuff in this movie.
Yeah. But the mariachi ends up going to this town. He tries to find, work as a guitar player, as a musician, performing at a bar. And he goes into a bar where there are just 4 guys mean mugging him as soon as he walks in. Asks for a soda pop, which is the most like, I don't even know. What am I trying to say? Non-badass thing to do, but also,
Right.
but also to show you like, yeah, especially the differences between our hero El Mariachi and then Azul, who's not necessarily a bad guy, I like Azul. He's probably my third favorite character in this. I really like that guy that plays him. But every time he goes
Oh
into
yeah,
a bar, he's like, "I want a beer," and
in
yeah,
a bottle.
in a bottle. Which I was like, "Ooh, I don't know why that's more badass, but it
I
is."
think it's because they would always start pouring it like without asking, and he was like, "No, bro, like you didn't ask me."
I always wondered if it had something to do with um, not wanting to put your lips on something that, even though like a glass is washed and things, a bottle has
Yeah,
not touched anybody's lips. I don't know.
that's a solid point. I don't think they ever explained it. I didn't find
No,
anything in the
I,
research about
I
it either.
like I said, I don't think it's anything. I think it makes him seem more badass than El Mariachi. Um,
Yeah. Well,
so
oh, can we also jump back into
yeah,
so he went into this bar trying to get work. And this scene when they were like, "We already have a mariachi," made me laugh so hard, and it really um made me think of Napoleon Dynamite. I was like, "This is very Napoleon Dynamite esque."
I didn't think about it like that, but you're right. And I think the music that he played, the house band or whatever played, is like some comedy music or parody music. I forgot. I didn't have that in my notes, but I did remember that it was something like that, and so probably not for us to laugh at as we don't know, but like
It was
thought
still hilarious.
it was very funny,
And
very
this is
funny.
the first instance too where they use a technique that I really enjoyed throughout the whole movie, made me laugh every time. And it was just it was super simple, just speeding him up because they
Hmm.
just sped him up, setting up the keyboard, and he was just moving real fast. It was just the comedic timing there
Yeah,
was perfect.
and he has a really nice balance. Obviously, this is an action movie. This is a um, like not suspenseful, but definitely more action than a comedy movie, but like sprinkles in the comedy perfectly. Not where it's overbearing, where I'm like, oh my god, that was the funniest movie of all time. I just really appreciate a film that can do that and knows like, okay, here's what our main goal is, but here's a little bit of comic relief in there. I think some movies struggle with that, and get a little bit too.
Yeah, they try to force the comedy down your
Yeah,
throat.
that's what I'm
I
trying
think
to
this
say.
is the perfect balance. You're right.
Yeah. Um, so he leaves after being denied, and then this is what we're gonna see for the rest of the movie. Azul comes in, and he means business. He asks for a beer, and the four guys sitting at the table are Moko's men, and he guns those guys down, and that's how we get this mistaken identity thing started. Is we've got Azul coming in after, and I love it because he props the guitar case on the dead guy, um, and then goes and kills another guy in there. Um, it's so good, and then I love the end when the bartender is calling up Moko, and Azul comes back in. I just love that moment that you think this guy's gonna get it, and
What did he end up coming back in for? Did he pay? I can't remember.
yes, that was
Oh,
what it was.
okay.
Yeah, I think he gave him some money.
That
For,
was that was badass too. Yeah, I just like you said, Azul's not necessarily a good guy or a bad guy, but I really liked his character and the actor that played him
yeah,
too. I also during that scene, I think I really started digging the whole score of the movie, and then I also wrote down best mustaches in cinema because they were great.
there is one of the there's one of the main guards that has just a perfect mustache.
Yes.
His mustache is incredible, and I'm glad he lived to the end of the movie. Spoiler, but yeah, he lives till the end of the movie. I love it, and he's the one that gets the match.
Oh yeah, we
Um,
are definitely gonna talk about that.
um, so yeah, like the rest of this movie, there is a chase scene. Like after this, the mariachi is staying at a hotel, and people get word that the guy wearing black and carrying a guitar case is staying at this hotel. The hotel owner's like, yeah, he's up there, and
Well,
So
and that I wrote down a quote from that one as well. I've got a lot of quotes that I wrote
oh,
down.
good, because I did not write down any quotes.
Oh yeah. So well, there's two things about this. One, and I'll have to find it in my notes as well. Oh, there it is. So the hotel owner, the guy that has a lot of screen time, he was a local newscaster who was talking negatively about the movie. So to get them to stop, Rodriguez gave them both small parts in the well, gave this guy and then another guy later small
Hmm.
parts in the movie, which small part is kind of a big part.
Yeah, it is and he was pretty funny too.
Yeah, that
He
was
had a good role.
every time they sped up him calling the phone, I laughed really hard. But the quote I wrote down here was because he told El Mariachi if he said if you what did he say? No, he was telling another guy, the guy with the good mustache. He said, you know, if you see this guy, call me. And he said, and if I don't call you, you'll kill me, right? And he said, no, I won't, but he will. And I was like, oh shoot,
It's a good line. It's a good line.
it is.
Um, but I love this because these four gangster guys come and they start chasing, El Mariachi, the wrong guy, not Azul. Chase him down the street. He forgets his guitar at one point. He has to end up doubling back and going to the hotel, which gives a funny line to the hotel owner, who's like, "You idiots! He's right here. He just passed me. Come back." And that allows our Mariachi to get away, so to speak. But this brings up the first instance of violence concerning the Mariachi. He comes around a corner, and there are two guys in a pickup truck. And this is one of the scenes that I had a problem with. And
Wait, was it the one where
they shoot each other.
Yes, yes.
These two
You
guys
had a
are
problem
hanging.
with that?
I thought it was cool in concept, but execution, I was like, okay. And I have to keep telling myself, they're shooting this on a budget. They're doing this all in 2 weeks, and probably like guerrilla filming this, as in like they probably didn't get permission to do any of this stuff and just close down streets and we're like, yeah, we're gonna do this. But yeah, Mariachi, somebody in the chat was saying Mariachi's too fast. He was very slow going up that truck, and he's going up the front of the truck. They're hanging out their windows. I wish I could illustrate this better. They're hanging out the windows, and they're going to shoot at the Mariachi, who's going right over the hood of the car and the windshield, and they end up shooting each other. It is the slowest thing I've ever seen in an action movie.
See, I just kind of wrote that off as like top tier comedy because obviously it would never happen.
Obviously, it would never happen like that, but I was just like, that scene, I was just like, ooh. I wish I wish it were just executed better. But again, that's the only time in this movie that I was like, I wish something different happened.
There was one really cool shot during that entire chase scene and I think it was only like a few frames. But El Mariachi was like going around a corner or something. I can't, or maybe trying to turn around, and he like slides and his shoes slide. And I don't know, that shot was just really
I
like
think that's this,
beautifully.
isn't it? I think that's
It's
this scene
beautifully
where
done.
he goes right. I think he slides right in front of that truck. I think
Oh,
that's
okay. Yeah,
yeah.
but they just have a close up on his feet, and I don't know, just the way they did it was just gorgeous.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then as these two guys kill each other, our mustachioed man comes up and does not get killed here. Very important. And gets knocked out by the Mariachi hitting him in the face with the guitar case. But he then a gun falls to the ground, and the final gangster guy comes around a corner, and we get this like it's like this slow-mo motion in this where he kind of does like pulls out the gun and shoots this guy around the corner of the truck, and it is what I thought that was a very cool, for as slow as he went up the truck in that little slow motion thing. Like, I thought this shot was really cool. You've probably seen it replicated in movies, other action movies, after this or before this even, but I thought it was a really cool effect. And our hero ends up killing one person, even though he
Yeah,
takes
well,
takes credit for
technically,
four.
I was gonna say, yeah, it ends up playing a pretty pivotal role in the film with these four missing, I guess, deaths, which we'll get into later. But do you want to? And I'm sure it's in your research. Do you want to talk about like how they did uh, the shooting, like the impact?
The squibs part.
Yeah,
The squib, I didn't know that I had to do research on this stuff because I saw stuff about squibs. And I was like, what the heck is a squib?
really interesting.
Yeah, a squib is like a little mini detonator. So anytime that you see blood exploding from a gunshot or anything like that is a little detonator that's exploding, essentially blood packs. They actually have professional. For the blood packs on these, they are condoms filled with fake blood. And they were like tied on with a weight belt, like weightlifting belt, so that they would. And I don't know what they used for the detonator, but it was some. I don't know how much you pay for something like that for something like that. And then there was something with the guns too, to where they were most of the guns in the film are water guns. So you got super soakers out there painted black, looking awesome. And then I think there were a couple real guns in there that they put blanks in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those guns that had the blanks would only fire one at a time. So if you have like a Mac 10 or an Uzi out there, and those are automatic guns or automatic weapons, what you're seeing is like I think he edited it this way so that it looks like they're continuous, but they had to shoot one at a time, those blanks, to make it look, and then just kind of edited it back and forth to make it look like that. Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. And I was like, obviously, this is super like low tech, low budget for the squibs. And I was just shocked because whenever, and obviously I did research after I watched it, but whenever I saw the impact shots, I was like, damn, this is really good, especially for 1993 on obviously a low budget film. Like, how did they do that? And then to read that this is how they did it was super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And spoiler alert for Peter Marquardt's character Moko, he dies. But so whenever he got shot, he actually in the notes I have got that he suffered some physical like discomfort in the final scene, and when he was hit in the chest, it just exploded with so much force that he actually crumpled to the ground in pain. So it wasn't foolproof, but you know it made it look great.
Yeah, and that is another thing. Like I said, I was really impressed with most of the action in this movie. Like I wouldn't have known about the squibs and stuff like it looks so good. And knowing that he spent majority of his budget on the film and the camera that he used to shoot this whole movie, it makes everything else so much cooler. Like I know he did all the editing himself, and that's impressive, especially when you're cutting film. I mean, that's a whole different. And he didn't cut film, actually. I forgot about this part.
Oh, I didn't know this.
He recorded the film to a VHS and edited from a VHS bay, which I have edited VHSs before, and it's way better than cutting film the way that people used to, but it's still editing a VHS is how he did it. It was
I had no idea you'd ever edited a VHS. I'm super impressed.
yeah.
I know nothing about that.
Yeah, it was one of the weird things in college when I was going to school to be a movie editor or something like that. One of our classes, we were like, let's edit film. And he's like, no. We're going to do another ancient technology, VHS. And I was like, oh, cool.
So how did that work? Sorry, we're getting a little off topic, but I'm just super interested now.
No, essentially you are, you're watching the video play and you're making your cuts there or you're adding your music there. I think it's being transferred to another VHS. I think if I'm remembering correctly, like you're essentially recording and editing at the same time with like two different VHSs.
So it's like a program?
Yeah, there's no like computer program or anything. It's like if I have two VCRs hooked up to that TV back there, it's like
wow.
I am doing things with like a manual. And I could be wrong. If anybody's out there and wants to teach me how to do tape to tape, I remember doing it. And I remember being like, why am I doing this? We have digital photography now. We could do this. I thought it would be cool to learn film. even though nobody uses film anymore. Hardly anyone uses film anymore. I thought it would be cool to learn that, but no, they didn't want any of
That
that.
super interesting little
Yeah,
detour we took.
yeah, a little bit of a detour. Um, after that hotel chase and everything, this is when we our hero meets Domino, who is the romantic lead, I guess you would say, for this movie. And she runs this bar, and we learn a little bit more. We don't learn much about her right now, but um, he's essentially like, "Hey, do you want to hire me?" And she's like, "I can't. I don't make any money." And he's like, "How do you have this bar?" And we find out that Moko is the one that bought her the bar, and she's been running it for, I guess, for herself. But he's trying. Moko wants, like, she's his lady, and he keeps buying her things to make sure that she will be his lady eventually, in the
I
biblical
do have.
sense.
I got a couple of notes here. A quote, and then a that other guy that was the newscaster who was talking negatively that he hired. He's the bartender at Domino's bar, and then the quote I have is like he walks in like, or maybe like runs in because he had just killed this guy, and then those pizza, those read the damn chat, um, and those guys killed each other. So he's like runs in all out of breath and stuff, and she was like, "What happened, Mariachi? Too much soda pop?" And he just says, "I just killed 4 men." I was just like, "Well, damn."
Yeah, and he didn't kill four men; he only killed one.
Yeah, yeah. How's he taking credit for all
He's
that?
taking credit for four of them. I mean, good for him. I love that this is your international sign for pizza. It's scissoring. Um,
I'm just thinking, cutting. I
you
don't
can
know what
tell
I was
you
doing.
tell your son you want some pizza.
Yeah, I will not be doing that.
That'll be incredible. So we
Because
meet
I just said pizza.
yeah, we meet Domino. Uh, she offers him like a place to stay essentially for now. She doesn't really try, and then
Well, that's
um,
another. That brings apart another great quote. She says, "Y cuidado con mi pitbull," and then so it's like, beware of my pitbull. And then he gets up there, and the pitbull is just like super lazy, just like laying there, just looking at him. I thought that was really
the
funny.
pit bull was
Um,
great.
and then the music on this, I feel like it was really simple but really intense, and I really enjoyed that.
Hmm. Um, I think she gets. Does she get a call
Yeah,
from the main
from
guy?
Moko.
From Moko. Okay, and he's like, they're looking for a mariachi, or we're looking for a guy
Hmm.
wearing black, uh has the guitar case, and she's like, oh, I just let this guy into my house essentially, and then she confronts him while he's in a bath
Yeah,
in a bathtub.
it, yeah, yeah. Why'd he go up there and take a bath? Like he was just like, let me make myself at home.
It was very, I mean, that makes more sense in like the westerns. So this is kind of like a neo
I
western.
could see that.
But yeah, always the main character would always just go and take a bath, but he's probably at a place that offers baths.
And the
Yeah,
bath is just like out in the middle of the room too, which was
yes.
strange.
Uh, and another way to just make our guy, vulnerable. She goes up there to kind of confront him because she knows that this mariachi's not what he says. He doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have a guitar in that case. He has guns in there, and he's naked in this bathtub. And she gets a letter opener from that looks like a badass little dagger, and confronts him about it, and like sticks it, or like goes up to his throat first, and then she kicks off her shoes and like toe flips open the guitar case, finds out it is a guitar. But she's still not trusting him, and so she throws him the guitar, puts that knife down to his balls, and says, play me a song."
This
And
is my favorite
it
scene.
is so good. It is such a good scene. And he did when he does play the song and sings. That's not him singing.
No,
Which I didn't know it wasn't him singing.
yeah, I got it. They did it really well.
And but basically they got somebody to sing it, and then they pitched it up so it could match his speaking voice, which still very impressive. And I think that was all recorded on a cassette and edited that way. So again, we're talking about this analog technology that people are shooting on that that seems more archaic than actually doing the way like film is made.
I did rewind this scene because, and I'm gonna get to that, Joe, about the song lyrics. I rewound it because I laughed. I might have watched it 3 or 4 times because I laughed so hard at the song. First of all, the way he was singing it, and then but the lyrics just caught me off guard so much. So let me let me read you
Please do.
the full song lyrics. He says, "I've been caught with my pants down, and there may be a castration. There were several assholes who tried to rip me to pieces, and now I'm with this princess who's armed with a knife, big northern eyes, and a ferocious body." It was fantastic.
It was a good and if the lyrics weren't on the screen, I would have thought it was like a just a regular like folk song or something like that. I would have thought. I mean, it sounded so good. I was like, hell yeah, this is good. And way to go, way to not only get yourself out of a jam by telling her like, hey, this is what happened, but also hit on her at the same time and say that she has a ferocious body.
I know you were digging Domino. I
Oh,
know
I'm
you had that
into
there.
Domino.
Oh,
I'm
okay, I
into
was
Domino.
100% sure that you would be.
I'm very much into Domino. That I can't even express how much I was into her.
I'm gonna. I don't know if you saw this little tidbit too. You know what? We'll go ahead and talk about it already. Would you have been as into her if it would have been these other actresses that were considered? Uh, did you see who was considered for the role?
I saw it, and this, I saw those lists, and I was like, I would like. It's hard for me to think about those people being in that role, and were they considered for the role, or were they actually like?
Yeah.
I mean, I could consider George Clooney to live my life. It doesn't mean he's gonna be.
Right.
He's not gonna be up for it. But yeah, give me that list because
Oh, well, the only two I just wrote down two, and that was Vanessa Williams and Diane Wiest.
Diane Wiest is not a good fit for Domino.
Hey, I didn't say it was a good fit.
Diane Wiest? Yeasty Weasty?
I thought that was an odd list, but
She's
yeah, I
not
mean,
Yeasty. Diane Wiest is a lovely person. I doubt she'll ever see anything about this, but I didn't mean to say Yeasty Weasty. That was bad. Vanessa
shame on
Williams,
you.
though, I'm on board for Vanessa
Yeah,
Williams. I
I'd
think
be
it.
on board as well.
I don't know if you ever watched. I think she was in. Have you ever watched the television show Ugly Betty?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that kind of. I mean, not the comparison of like that being like a telenovela and this being a Mexican film, but like I think she could have pulled off that character. I still think I like this actress better. I thought
Oh,
this actress was
yeah.
incredible.
It ended up being perfect casting.
There were I want to know some of the other ones. I forgot to write those
Oh,
down.
see, I didn't recognize a lot of them. Those were the main two that I did that kind of
Diane
caught me
Wiest
off
is
guard.
the most uninspiring casting I've ever heard in my life for this role. Diane Wiest? I'm mad. I'm mad now. You've made me mad.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I'm
kidding. I'm
sorry.
kidding. I'm kidding.
We to progress the plot in this film though, this is where they start. I don't remember how they transition to it, but they start. Moko is on the phone with Azul, and I guess Azul's talking about trying to get his money back and stuff like that. And so, um, or Azul asks Moko, or Moko says, "You killed." No, I'm not giving your money. You killed. I don't remember. He said like 10 of my men. He's like, Azul keeps insisting that it's 6, and that made me laugh really hard. Like they're debating over the body count, and then that brings up the line that you were talking about. This just super badass line because, I mean, he's Azul. He's sick, but he says, Moko says, "Como ves?" Was like, how do you see me? And then and then Azul says, "Veo un traje blanco lleno de sangre," which I see you in a white suit full of blood. It's like, damn.
Yeah, Azul's awesome.
Yeah, I want him to come deliver one-liners for me.
I want him to live at the end of this movie.
Oh God, yeah,
and start
so
a
much.
mariachi band with
And we see we do see Azul's living situation. He's in bed with all these women all the time, and when they pop up with the guns, I
every
lost
time.
it.
They've done it.
Yeah,
What, they do it twice in the movie, I think, with the
two
guns.
or
Yeah.
three. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I had written down here was, I mean, just a general note about the humor of this. One, the concept of this the is humorous enough. Like, there's mistaken identity. This is a simple mariachi player that, or he's a mariachi, um, and gets confused with this assassin. The three girls with Azul, the conversation between Azul and where they're debating how many people they actually killed. Yeah, just those little moments that the hotel owner, those little moments. That's what really makes the comedy. It's just sprinkled in, and it really really does work in this movie, especially. Uh, and it knows when to let up too. Once we get down to the end of the movie and the climax and everything coming full circle, the comedy kind of drops out of there, and you're like, oh yeah, this is an action movie with an actual stakes on the line kind of thing. So
Yeah, and then so they cut back to, I guess, the real mariachi back in the bar, and so Domino, is allowing him to do what he does because she, found the guitar in his case and was like, oh, it's a real mariachi, and that's where we're introduced to the song Ganas de Vivir, which is like the joys of life, kind of. And he's obviously, indirectly, directly singing about her. But that's where we learn, like, wow, he is a good mariachi,
mm-hmm.
even though it's, like you said, not his voice.
And then I think that after that is the I've got like two main scenes left, or main things that happen left, and that is where the cases get mixed up in the bar because Azul comes in and picks up the wrong case, and then Azul gets tracked down by Moko's goons, and they're like, "Oh, this is our guy. Open up your case," and you can see Azul's sweating. Man, he's about to get just murdered, and he has the guitar in his case, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't our guy. Let's just let him go." And the mariachi realizes he has the thing full of guns, and I mean, I've never seen somebody so desperate to get their guitar. I mean, I guess that's your livelihood. That's the one thing. He's very concerned about that guitar. He has to get it
Well,
back.
earlier in the movie, he says, and I wrote that down too. He said, "Mi voz es mi vida," like my voice is my life. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it is. So I get it.
Yeah, and obviously they're chasing after the guy with the guitar case full of guns, so he doesn't want to
Yeah.
be mistaken for that and end up getting killed. But he comes around the corner. There's a lot of that, like, coming around the corner shots in this movie, and I
Hmm.
don't hate it. It's not like overdone or anything. They're always good because it's always that, like, oh, I'm in trouble kind of thing there, and they start chasing after him instead of the other mariachi, right?
There is one, I guess, sequence of scenes that we have kind of missed a little bit that I really liked. I thought they were really well done, and that was the dream sequences.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about the dream sequence. I didn't have them in order or anything like
Oh,
that,
okay.
but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I really liked them. The kid is coming out of he's opening a door of a house that's not there anymore. It's been destroyed, and then it's what is he bouncing a basketball, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's always like a severed head that either rolls in or kind of pops up, and I think I saw where that's supposed to represent
Yeah, it
Rodriguez,
was Robert. It was supposed to be modeled after Robert Rodriguez.
which is
Um,
cool.
and then I think the final dream sequence is like the foreshadowing dream sequence that we're gonna lose Domino in the like. She's running away from him, and I think she has blood on her dress or something like that
Hmm.
to that effect. So uh, definitely gives us a lot of symbolism for foreshadowing for the events that are about to happen. Uh,
Which shocked me.
yeah, well, and the next like, I mean, I'm kind of skipping. We see a little bit more of like the mariachi and Domino, and like they're developing a relationship, and Domino is kind of falling in love with this mariachi officially, and um, she wants to end this, and I think at some point Azul comes into the bar and he's like, all right, let's go take care of this kind of thing. Like he was really cool about it. And she was like open to do it because she's like, I want to live my life with this mariachi and get rid of Moko. So yeah, let's do this thing. And so he pretends to hold her. Azul takes her to Moko's. Says, hey, I'm going to pretend to hold you hostage. And she screws up, man. She really screws up.
Moko had a badass line here, though. Even though I don't like him, like obviously he's the bad guy. It was pretty sick. He said, "You won't kill her, I'll kill her." I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah. Yeah, she screws up. She's being held hostage, and she's like, "Oh, leave the mariachi alone. He didn't do anything." Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Oh, you love him?" Not
when he's clearly been trying to get with her the whole time.
Yeah,
like,
the entire time.
Buying her a bar,
buying her a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Weird gift. It's just like, think about that the next time you want to get your significant other a gift. It's like bar, motorcycle, flowers. Who knows? In that order, probably. And so Moko gets mad that she has fallen in love with this mariachi and not him. And so he just kills her, just shoots her. It's a very sad moment. And then Azul's like, oh, well, crap. Now I don't have now I don't have any bargaining chip, and he gets laid out too. And that's pretty much it. And
then he starts lighting matches off that guy's face.
If anybody ever lit a match off of my face, done.
That was so crazy. Done. Like, it was so badass, but it was so funny at the same time. It was just, I didn't even, like, I would have never thought. The creativity in Rodriguez's mind to come up with some of this is phenomenal.
If you ever light a match off my face,
I don't even know if I could.
Strike anywhere matches. You can strike literally anywhere.
Well,
you're gonna try it now.
Yeah, I know.
You're like, I gotta find somebody that'll let me do it.
Exactly.
Not me.
But then the mariachi, the real mariachi, comes back a little late, but comes back.
A little late, shows up, and she's dead. And he gets mad about it. He grabs Azul's gun and shoots Moko 3-4 times. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, shoots him a few times, and all his little gang stand by and kind of watch the whole thing happen because he treats them like he treats them like shit and doesn't really care about them. But there we get our vindication. Obviously, he's sad because,
well, you did miss that El Mariachi got his hand absolutely obliterated.
My bad. Completely forgot about that. That's the first thing that happens before Mariachi kills Moko is he gets his hand blown to pieces because he's taking away the one thing that I was
impressed with how brutal that shot was.
Yeah. I mean, it like explodes. It's like in the and then a couple times in the shot you see that it's just like a hole in the middle of his hand, which again, we're dealing with $7,000. I'm impressed with all of it, honestly. Yeah. Shoots a hole in his hand, so the guy can't play guitar anymore, and then he gets payback. You took my girlfriend, you took my livelihood, and now I'm going to kill you. And so he kills him.
And then the henchman.
Yeah, and then the henchman gets his revenge too and strikes a match off of Moko. And the last thing we see is the mariachi, continuing his journey. He's got the guitar case full of guns, and he's just kind of walking down the highway again. Does Tito show up again in this shot?
No. Has he taken off yet?
Oh, he takes off on the motorcycle with the dog. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was glad that he took the dog.
Yeah, he did take the dog. My bad. I forgot he's not walking.
Yeah, anymore. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure the tortoise does show up in some capacity. I know at least he says a line about it. There was at one point he was like, I don't remember. He said something. It was either about Domino or the town. It was like, "It's the most beautiful town, most beautiful thing I've ever seen, other than that tortoise, of course."
Or other than that tortoise, of course.
But tortoise, what a good ending.
Good ending. I love this. I really did like the movie. The more we've talked about it, the more I'm like, maybe I should bump my score up a little bit. think what else did I miss? Did I miss anything? I mean,
Can I do something very unprofessional real quick?
as long as you're not like, yeah.
I gotta go pee so
Oh
bad.
yeah, that's fine.
But I don't know. I hate to just kind of put you in a spot like that, but man.
That's on record for the rest of eternity.
Oh
So
no. Okay. So I'll give you something to kind of you can kind of go over while we're doing this. First of all, I guess you can go ahead and like give your score and other stuff like that. And then if you want to go ahead and talk about fun facts
yeah,
or
that's what I'm gonna start on. Is fun.
okay, actually no, wait for me to get back for that. Do you have background on Rodriguez's career?
I mean that he like movies that he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just read that off.
Okay, I'll just go to his IMDb and read that out.
Well, he had a much more storied career than I would have expected, but I guess doing this with $7,000 is pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, yes,
Okay,
go.
I got
Just get out of here. You're wasting my time. Wasting my time, everybody. I'm very sorry about that. No, a little bit more about Robert Rodriguez. I think most people would be familiar with Robert Rodriguez as he has done movies, like I said, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Those are the sequels to this movie and this franchise. Like I said earlier, he's doing the movie behind me, The Faculty, great horror movie from like 98, I believe. But From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a collaboration that he did with Quentin Tarantino. And him and Quentin Tarantino both had Reservoir Dogs comes out for Quentin Tarantino. I think the year before this, and this one I think technically came out the year before 1993, but was released wide. Had a wide release in 93. So those guys are kind of tied together in one coming up in Hollywood and two like some of the movies that they made together. So From Dusk Till Dawn, he also did the Spy Kids franchise, which is probably familiar to a lot of people that are a little bit younger than us, probably around Spencer's age. But Spy Kids, all those Spy Kids movies, Shark Boy, Lava Girl, that kind of stuff. Very bizarre that the guy that did these movies and Desperado are, talking about Spy Kids and Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Also the Sin City franchise. He did those Sin City movies. I'm trying to think if there's anything else like real huge that I'm missing.
Did you cover an episode of The Mandalorian and 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett?
Yeah, I didn't cover those, but he kind of falls into it's these movies that are made, especially these first time directors. Sorry, somebody in the chat mentioned one, Planet Terror, another collaboration that he did with Quentin Tarantino. But there are these like this group of these 90s first time directors that we see a lot of, especially these like 92, 93. So you're getting like Kevin Smith, Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Richard Linklater, who's going to do, Dazed and Confused, which we'll cover later this year. Jon Favreau, who's the creator of The Mandalorian and has like produced a lot of those shows, a lot familiar for Marvel stuff like Iron Man 2. So you see a lot of those guys that are still working today, still really good friends, still, have comparable work to each other. They do fun movies. They do. I think the outliers are Richard Linklater and Quentin Tarantino. They kind of do what they want whenever they want. So, Planet Terror was good. It was a part of that Grindhouse double feature. I liked the Quentin Tarantino's movie a little bit better than Planet Terror, but Planet Terror was a lot of fun. Machete, again, coming from that Grindhouse style with Danny Trejo. Very, he's got the movies that he likes to do and has a lot of fun with it and puts a lot of Latino actors out there and has really elevated their careers a ton. So like a Danny Trejo who shows up in, like in bit roles and Heat and From Dusk Till Dawn is now headlining a movie called Machete. So he really has done a lot to. Antonio Banderas becomes a household name in the mid 90s because of movies like Desperado. and Mask of Zorro, things like that. So I really Salma Hayek. We wouldn't have Salma Hayek like as prevalent as she is without her being the vampire stripper in From Dusk Till Dawn. That sounds insane that I said that, but like she's Selma Hayek. Like I mean, we don't get her without some of these movies putting forth these actors and actresses. So, big praise for Robert Rodriguez and what he's done um, for film as a whole, and really advanced the careers of a lot of people. So, I give it up to him. All right, fun facts. I'm back. You're back.
Yeah, sorry, that's so unprofessional.
You're good. So Robert Rodriguez, like I said in the beginning of this, did everything on this movie. The only job that he did not do on this movie was act. But one thing I'll say in my fun facts is, on my second viewing, you see Robert Rodriguez show up multiple times in the movie because he just comes into the shot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a couple times like you'll spot some things, and I only notice there is a guy, and I think it is Robert Rodriguez, who in the very first scene of the movie, like the shootout scene in the prison, there's a guy wearing like a blue T-shirt in the background. He's not anywhere in it. He's not one of the. And I was like, who is that guy? And then I come to find out it was Robert Rodriguez. So a lot of that stuff, happens, especially when you're on a tight budget and timeline like this. Moving shots, anytime that there's like a slower moving shot, those were all filmed from a broken hospital wheelchair. Anything a little bit faster paced was done from a pickup truck. If they didn't have to pay for the camera or film, this movie would have cost $600, and $3,000 of that dollars came from him being a lab rat and doing like experiments that he would get paid for on his body. So that's pretty cool.
And that's where he met Moko.
And that's where he met Moko, who doesn't know Spanish at all. And they were just like, say these lines terribly. And he said, okay. I don't know how one acts. I mean, I get it's not like Robert Rodriguez doesn't speak English, but how do you convince somebody to act and not know what they're saying? Like,
yeah, I don't know. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. And I don't, it wasn't not believable. Like the whole time I was like, okay, this white guy is running this like gang in Mexico, and
it made sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. It's just like he doesn't speak Spanish that well. But he speaks it. So it was very believable to me.
Yeah, it was like he had to learn it to go down there and run a successful drug smuggling business. Like it just made sense.
Yeah. What else do you have for me?
The one kind of to go along with what we were just talking about. So I read that the version of the movie seen in most cinemas has had approximately $1 million of post-production work and promotion behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know exactly what that means. I just kind of found that it's interesting considering like the $7,000 or the $600 mark that we kind of be talking about.
Yeah, I think he showed this at it might have been Sundance or one of those film festivals, and everybody was so impressed with it that I forget the company that got it. It might have been Paramount that bought the movie and then put out. They were like, okay, because I think the movie was called The Guitar Player. Mm-hmm. And they were like, we're not releasing it as The Guitar Player. That nobody's going to watch a movie called The Guitar Player, even though El Mariachi literally means the guitar player. And it was just a better time. And they were right. I mean, this movie grosses $2 million off of this tiny budget. Even if I'm spending $1 million in post-production, I'll still take that $1 million profit.
Oh, yeah.
The movie studios do not do anything like this anymore.
Yeah. Speaking of Sundance, though, it did win at Sundance.
It did. I didn't know that. I thought I would assume like Reservoir Dogs would have been the.
See, I didn't know that either until I was just right before we hopped on. I was clicking around on, I want to say it may have been on Carlos Gallardo or Robert Rodriguez information, and that popped up. So I was like, that's pretty neat. Some other fun facts that I came across was no storyboards exist for the film because Rodriguez had no other crew members to show them to.
Yeah, I was about to say, you don't have an assistant director. You don't have any of these people that are doing any of the other shots. It's just like all lives in the mind of the director.
Most of these shots were done in one take for every scene, so that lowered the budget from 9,000 to 7,000.
Came in under budget, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned working with Tarantino. We mentioned the dream sequence with the head, the squibs, and so I think I've got two more. Bloopers were kept in to save film because, of course, Rodriguez wanted to save money. So examples are like when the mariachi gets hit by the bus, like jumps on it. When he bumps his weapon into a street pole. And then he tries to throw the guitar case on the balcony and does so terribly. But I mean, it got up there, I guess. And then apparently Domino twitches her face when she's already dead. I didn't notice that.
I looked for it, and it's like the slightest thing. But people like on the internet research, it made such a big deal about it. I was like, that was.
Yeah, I didn't see it at all.
Yeah.
So. And then there's a total of 18 deaths in the movie, but it felt like a lot more.
Yeah, it did feel like a lot more. And I think they got the numbers wrong on how many people died at one point. Yeah. So like when he's arguing with him, he's like, "Oh, I only killed 6." He's like, "No, you killed 10." I think the numbers were wrong about the amount of people that he really did. I think his numbers are 7. I think that's how many he's killed.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And yeah.
That's
and yeah, it's 7. And it's actually less because the one guy doesn't die. So there only 9 people died. So like the math is all off there. Not only can he not speak Spanish, he can't do math either. The next bit here is how could you make it better? And I wrote this. I think they did make it better. I think they corrected the mistakes of the first one, like the technical details. When they made Desperado, it's essentially I don't know if you've ever seen Desperado. I was gonna watch it coming up to this, but I didn't see it for free anywhere, so I didn't watch it. But I had seen it years ago, and I really loved that movie. And it definitely still has like the heart of this. It has that like campiness even in some parts. There's like a machine. It's pretty cool. And then Once Upon a Time in Mexico just goes full force and just like triples the action. I mean, you've got guitar cases with missile launchers in them and machine guns, and he reloads them. You should watch them, definitely. I want to watch them now. But like in response to this about like Desperate, like the technical aspect of it, like I'm not bothered by it. I really think this is a good movie that stands on its own. Like I had told you in the beginning, I really liked Gallardo. I liked Gomez as El Mariachi and Domino. I think they're the best actors in the whole movie. And don't get me wrong, I liked Azul. I mean, I don't think he's amazing, but I really think the main two were good and carried this movie even in the times when it was a little bit lacking. But no, I think this movie. Obviously, this movie could have been done better in the time just because of money and production value and things like that. But I think for what it is, I think it's great.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the only suggestion I would have, we already kind of talked about it, was maybe the pace of language and getting Moko a little bit more practice on his speaking Spanish. Obviously, and now we know kind of the lore behind it. But if they would have had more time to kind of catch him up to speed, and then like I said, just kind of a more authentic pace, I guess, would have been nice. But it's just super small stuff because I just came away so impressed with this.
So star rating, what'd you give it?
I gave it 4.5 stars.
4.5 stars.
I love it. It's so good. It's such a good movie.
I gave it originally a 3, and then after watching it last night and talking with you today, I think I'm convinced that It's a 3.5 on my scale.
Yay! You at
Yeah,
least came up a
I
little
did
bit.
come. I mean, I love Groundhog Day. It's gonna take a while
Yeah.
for us to get to a movie that I'm like, no, this movie's way better than Groundhog Day.
God, I don't know. I don't know. I probably enjoyed this movie way more than I should have.
I
It was such a fun watch.
No, I think that's what it. I came away and I was like, this is a really fun movie. We've kind of needed a good action movie to talk about, and I
And
think
it's
this is
short.
what now?
It was short. It
And
didn't
it was
take up
short.
too much time.
I think it's the shortest movie we've watched, and that includes Homeward Bound. I think this one. I think those and this and Homeward Bound come in around the same time, hour and 20 minutes. So I love a good hour and a half movie.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like you wasted any of your time, even if
Exactly.
the movie's subpar, which this one's not.
Yeah. So one thing, I don't know. What else do you have? Anything you want to talk about with this movie?
Oh, that's all I
Before-
got.
All right. So one thing I wanted to discuss is he wrote a book about this, and one of the things that I'm doing this year is I'm trying to read more. And the books that I've been reading are going to be based around like, movies and things that I can always bring up later in this. So one of the books that Robert Rodriguez, or the book that Robert Rodriguez wrote about this, I'm going to add to my list. It's called Rebel Without a Crew, or How a 23-year-old filmmaker with $7,000 became a Hollywood player. So
What a title.
I know that sounds like it's like a title I would come up with, just some dumb stuff. But I did just
That sounds like it's going to be a really good read. Though.
Yeah. I just finished a book called Adventures in the Screen Trade by William Goldman. He's a famous screenwriter, wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Princess Bride, All the President's Men. It was pretty fast. It was written in like 1982, I think, and the edition I have doesn't update anything. So he's just like, yeah, movies are dead. We'll never see anything good for the next like 30 years.
Who's the author on that one?
William Goldman.
Any relation to Paul T?
Yeah, I don't think he's related to Paul T. Goldman. Sadly.
Okay. I was just making sure.
Sadly. Yeah. I would compare their writing, though. It's
no.
It's comparable. But now I've got like a whole. Let me see if I can. There's like a whole thing here in the back over this shoulder. These are all movie books here that I've got. If anybody wants to zoom in, if not,
okay, cool.
I don't care about you. Then I'm gonna do. You been reading anything, or you've seen anything lately that you've been?
I'm
in
glad
love with?
you asked that question because, yeah. So your last guest, Steven, actually recommended Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and I watched that and was pretty blown away. Like, I was shocked that I hadn't seen it before. It was so original and just good, and I was, kudos to Steven for that suggestion because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Anything you have want to throw out there as a recommendation?
Oh gosh,
I have been very bad about watching movies other than the ones we've done on here. So
yeah, I've kind of been in the same boat there. Honestly, not a movie, but I guess I would encourage everybody to watch what we just talked about. Paul T. Goldman.
I'll jump on board with that. I recommended it to my barber the other day.
Oh, it's a trip, dude. That is just. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, Paul T. Goldman. I am currently rewatching or watching because I never really watched it. Friday Night Lights, which is an incredible television show.
I think my wife and I are watching, which it'll be like my third watch, Search Party, and then The Resort on Peacock. I'm trying to get her into that.
Okay, sounds good. I think that has Chidi from the Good Place on it, right?
It does. Unfortunately, it does. We have to bring it up again, but he does. He does great in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think the only thing, like I said, I'm watching. I probably watch season 2 of White Lotus soon.
Oh yeah, I forgot you hadn't seen that.
I have not seen it yet, and I'm obviously rewatching watching all these movies. But Friday Night Lights is what I'm gonna chug along and do, and then I'm also reading Heat 2 by Michael Mann, the sequel to Heat, just what everybody wanted. which I
I'm
love
excited.
Heat. If I could do like just make people watch Michael Mann movies, I've already made you and Joseph watch
Oh
Michael. I made
yeah.
you watch Thief, which was incredible in my mind, and I
It
think you really.
wasn't just because the audio pissed me off so bad.
But I think you liked it, and
I did,
Joe
and that
didn't. But
was a,
we.
oh, he didn't.
No, he didn't like it.
Oh,
It's all right though. But he's met Danny Trejo, so he wins. He
yeah,
said that
he
in the
does.
chat earlier. So yeah, you guys should watch Manhunter. That's what I want you to watch now.
That sounds so familiar.
It is like the original Red Dragon. If you've ever seen the movie Red Dragon or heard about the movie Red Dragon, it's based on the Silence of the Lambs Hannibal Lecter universe.
Oh,
But this is like the original, and Michael Mann did it, and Brian Cox from Succession plays Hannibal Lecter. He's incredible. William Peterson from CSI is the main guy in it. Will Graham. It's great. I love Manhunter. If you want to come over and watch it on my 12-inch TV,
hey, I might take you up on that.
yeah, come on over and watch it with me. But
I gotta make a quick stop in Chattanooga and pick a guy up though.
okay, sounds good to me. Other than that, that's kind of where I'm going to end it today. I didn't come prepared with any questions for you. I think
Oh, you're good. I'm excited to hear what we're gonna have to watch next.
Yeah, thanks. So again, thank you, Spencer, for coming on here and doing this with me. I will thank you every time that you do this with me, and I really appreciate it. And I love watching movies, especially movies that I haven't seen. I love knowing that I'm about to show you something that you've never seen or that my guest hasn't seen. I really love that, and I just love this format and talking with people about those. So if you know of anybody else that wants to do this, I am more than happy to have Joseph and Spencer on this show for the rest of the time. I love them both. Maybe even have them both on at the same time one time, which would be a game changer. So let's definitely do that soon. But for next week, which will be back on regularly scheduled programming, as there is no Super Bowl and football's dead and nobody has anything to do for the next 6 months. So suck it up and watch this channel. We're going to be doing the movie Falling Down. It's directed by Joel Schumacher, starring Michael Douglas. I think it's going to be an interesting one, just kind of about a corporate guy who gets a little pissed off about his life. So I think there's probably some relevancy there. Probably some weird gun takes that we might have on this next one. So I'm not exactly sure who's going to be my guest on this, and maybe this would be a good one for you and Joseph to both get on and do. So we'll see what that is. But other than that, that is where I'm going to end today's show. If you'd like to follow, please press the follow button here on Twitch, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to all the videos on there as well. As I post those, I think it's Quatesy1 on there, but CD Waits everywhere else. And I encourage everybody to go, and if you don't have a Letterboxd account, it's a fun platform to rate and talk about movies and keep track of all the movies that you've watched for this year. There's a free version of it where you can do this, and they'll give you your stats at the end of the year about how you've watched all these movies. And there's also subscription services to it as well, and I cannot pump that up enough. I love that. I still need to teach Spencer how to use it properly.
Yeah, I'm going to stick to the free version. I'm cheap.
No, but I just need to tell you how to use it.
No, well, yeah, that's true. Because I am so lost. I'm just like, am I supposed to rate everything I've ever seen? Like, I don't get it.
But if you want to, you can search for me on there. My name is CD Waits. I believe Spencer's on there too as his BSG 6515.
Maybe.
I think that he is on there as well, and so is my last guest, Joseph, or Sir Garlet is on there as well. Go on there. I keep a list of all of the films that we're going to be watching. They are in order from how we're going to watch those, so there's no surprises on there. You can go on there and check out that list at any time. But drop me a follow, send me a message, and if you're interested in being on here sometime, please do let me know. But that's all I've got for you this week. I hope you all have a good rest of your weekend and a good week until we see you next time. This has been 52/1993. Have a good day and have a good Super Bowl.